Wednesday. Here's the question of the day. Why do people pay a lot of money to professionals and then for advice and then ignore the advice that they're given? Something I've always wondered about, and I was looking on the National Business Institute, and it's a really common thing. Almost every advice-oriented profession has this problem. Attorneys, accountants, doctors, they will tell their clients or their customers, essentially, you need to do this in order, if you want to achieve B, you have to do A. You just have to. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to some serious problems. And many times people pay dearly. I mean, they pay a lot of money to the professional for the advice, and if they don't take the advice, a lot of times they pay in unintended consequences that they had actually been warned about. So, what is your take on the word advice to begin with? Well, the kind of advice that I really, really, really hate is unsolicited advice. That's where I start, and it's almost always about weight, have you noticed? Or parenting, or something else that's very close to me. I'll say, hey, I'm trying to lose the last few pounds, and I have 100 people saying, well, you need to go primal, or you need to go vegan, you need to do Atkins, you need to do this, you need to do the South Beach diet, you need to hike 23 hours out of the day, you need to do intermittent fasting, and if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to die. That's really the way a lot of this unsolicited, unrequested, conflicting advice comes from. Now, my kind of take on this, and again, I'm going to use my weight loss journey as an example. The people that I want to give me advice are the ones I pay to give me advice. So basically, if I say, hey, I'm trying to lose 30 pounds, if you're not my trainer, if you're not my nutritionist, I don't care what your advice is. It's unsolicited and therefore undesired. So it's one thing to ignore free advice, and free advice is usually worth exactly what you paid for it. But when you go in and you talk to a professional and you say, I'm going to use weight as an example again. If you go in and you hire a trainer and a nutritionist and you say, hey, I want to be in the best shape of my life, you tell me how to work out and you tell me how to eat. And the nutritionist comes back and says, okay, I have a balanced meal plan for you. And if you follow my meal plan and do your trainer's workouts, I can guarantee you will lose the weight. I want you to return and report. I want you to take pictures of your meals. I want you to be accountable to me. Again, I'm hiring this person. I'm paying them money. By the way, I'm not hiring one in real life. I know how to lose weight. But I'm paying them money for their advice. Why would I then go out and buy a 10-pound bag of M&Ms and proceed to eat them all? That's really kind of what it comes down to. Now this, when I talk about food and weight, a lot of this has to do with emotion. So I'm just not, maybe it has to do with our childhoods. I know my parents suddenly got a lot smarter than they were when I was a teenager about the time I had my second child. They weren't quite as smart when I had my first one, but they got really smart after my second. And it was because that's when I realized that, it's one thing to have one kid. When you have two and you're outnumbered, I knew I just wanted my mom. And so as I've grown up, my parents, they were really, really smart when I was little, and then they were not so smart when I was a teenager, and then I had kids, and they got really smart again. It was amazing. And I'm wondering if it's kind of the same thing. Anyone who's paid to give advice, it's physicians, financial planners, accountants, attorneys, mental health professionals, they will tell you, they will give advice, they will give good, thoughtful, carefully considered advice advice, and people will go and they will do their own thing. And it's usually to that person's detriment. Kind of going back to the attorney thing, I have every time the other parent does this, if they're being abusive to you, I want you to write that down so that we have the evidence when we go to court. Or if you're trying to sell a business and you go, okay, well, the business that you're selling is really a client list. Businesses and people will pay 1.5 times your annual revenues for that. Come talk to me. I will make sure that you are covered and you are safe throughout this whole negotiation. And then they watch their client go do their own thing. And it just, it just makes them crazy. Now, right now, I'm trying not to ignore my doctor's advice. I have a torn meniscus in my knee. At least that's what I'm told. And I also have bone spurs. And so I have gone from hiking 5 miles a day every single day in the morning. Before I did anything else, I would hike 5 miles a day because I knew that that would, get my cardiovascular system healthy. And I knew that that would help me lose the last few pounds that I need to lose. And I know this because it's happened before. And then I noticed that my knee was popping and kind of locking up, and it would not hold my weight. It would be just this momentary thing. So I finally decided, maybe I should go to the doctor about it. The doctor says it's a torn meniscus. They did x-rays. They said it looks like it's a torn meniscus. It may also be the start of osteoarthritis. And I was like, not old enough for that. And then they said, I want you to stay off your knee for 2 weeks. And I just went, I hike 5 miles a day. And I don't want to stay off my knee for 2 weeks. I just don't. And they said, no, you've got to stay off your knee for 2 weeks. I mean, you can do your regular activities, going to the store and going to work and stuff like that, but you've got to rest your knee. I don't want to rest my knee. I want to go out. I want to be up in the woods. I just got to the point where I could run that trail. And now I have to wait about another 1.5 weeks before I can go hiking again. And it's really frustrating to me. I paid my doctor a lot of money for that advice. Do you think I'm going to take it? I'm probably going to take it with a grain of salt. I may even decide that I would rather be out walking. Or I may decide that, okay, I won't go hiking where it's uphill and then downhill, and it is kind of hard on the joints. Maybe I will just walk on a flat surface for the next 1.5 weeks so that I still get my exercise, which I need, and I won't run. I will just walk, and I will monitor that, and I will keep my doctor in the loop. Maybe that's something that I do, which is kind of a compromise. But I'm not going to ignore my doctor's advice, because if I do that, I'm going to end up having surgery, which I don't want to have. Now, how are we going to relate this to business? Because that's what this is all about. Excuse me. I hate that. How many times have you sat down with your tax preparer or your tax professional or your accountant, bookkeeper, and you have said, what can I do to help my business grow? Yesterday I talked a little bit about one of my former clients. They went out of business and they were spending money on meals and entertainment. In fact, I've had many clients do this. Fast food, fountain drinks from the convenience store snacks, multiple times a day. Basically, they're eating at 7-Eleven. And I go, you need to stop doing that because it's affecting your bottom line. What are they paying me for again? Not to do data entry. They're paying me to help them grow their business. And so when I say you need to not be doing that, it's not that I have any energy in it. It's not that I care if they eat at McDonald's 20 times a day. It has nothing to do with their physical health. In fact, I could care less about that. That's their choice. But I will tell them, if you keep eating out at the expense of your sales taxes that you need to pay because that money wasn't yours to start with, you're going to lose your business. One of my frequent quotes that I use is, you can choose your behavior, you can choose your actions. You cannot choose the consequences of those actions. For example, if I go out and I blow all of my money this week, which I'm obviously not going to do, I can choose to do that. But I cannot choose to prevent the bill collectors from calling me because I chose a behavior and there are consequences associated with it. So I would really like to know, and if y'all can comment or let me know, why do people pay a lot of money? And all of the professionals I've talked about, mental health professionals, attorneys, accountants, doctors, we are not cheap. This is, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Why would you pay someone hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to tell you what to do if you're going to ignore what they do? So that's kind of what it is. I'm kind of reminded of my oldest daughter who kept saying, well, I have to learn lessons my way. I have to make these mistakes so I learn. And I would say, but I've already made those mistakes. Those mistakes you're talking about, I've already made them. Why would you not learn from my mistakes and save yourself the heartache? So I'm really kind of thinking about attorneys and accountants as I'm discussing this, because they are the ones, again, I do business, I do accounting. They are the ones that really have a lot of advice that is extremely valuable if you will listen to it. And that's kind of the thing. I have a client right now that's in a cash flow crunch, and I keep telling him, you need to spend some money. I know it sounds contradictory and it sounds counterintuitive, but you're going to have to spend some money on marketing and advertising to get clients in. And he goes, well, these may not be the clients I want. I don't care. Bring them all in, and you can weed out the ones you don't want. But bring them in. And I was like, you are not at the point where you can be picky. Spend some money on advertising, spend some money on marketing, hire someone to help you with those things, and the money will start flowing in, and you'll be able to, we'll end the cash flow problem. So I'm kind of waiting to see if they take my advice. Again, they pay me a lot of money. So that's just about all I wanted to talk about tonight. Why do people... And I don't have an answer. I really don't know. Maybe it kind of goes back to our upbringing and the idea that when our parents are trying to give us advice at the most critical time of our lives, we're trying to do our own thing and we're trying to assert our own autonomy. So maybe that's it. I understand, discounting free advice, and I've often said, free advice is worth every penny you pay for it. But when it's paid advice, I think it's important to take it to heart and assume that the person giving you that advice, really has your best interest in heart. If you're paying them, then that's what they're doing. That's it for tonight. I will talk to you tomorrow, and I hope you have a wonderful